Hi there, welcome to Sunnyside Journals. I'm Catherine. I have a flip through today of a journal I recently completed. This book was published in 1934 originally, and so that makes it 87 years old. It was a blank cover with just the title, Innocence and Experience. The author was Phyllis Bottom. But I love when there is an interesting title but a blank book cover, and that way I can have fun with maybe an art masterpiece. And this is a painting that was originally done, you know what, I can't remember the year, by Sir John Everett Millais, in case you want to look that up. So it's a beautiful, simple book, and I think it lends itself nicely to becoming a journal. It is, let's measure it. It's quite a big book. There's 216 pages in it. It's a little bit more than 8 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is 1 1/2 inches thick. I've put in a permanent ribbon tie using bias tape and lace that I have zigzag stitched together. So that's actually worked right into the covers. Inside, I have used wrapping paper for the end papers, front and back. And this wrapping paper came from a book that I found thrifting, which reminds me, all the papers, materials, laces, ribbons, pictures in this book have come from thrifted sources, repurposed sources. That means rummage sales, church sales, yard sales, estate sales. And especially, I'd like to note, some of the things have come from Happy Mail. And I wish I could acknowledge every single person individually, but if you're watching, you'll note the things that you gave me, and it's with great thanks that I want to acknowledge the little things here and there in the book that may have come from Happy Mail. So this book, let's turn it up and just take a look from the top down. It's so pretty. I've put in a hidden hollow back spine, which means it'll lie flatter, nicer, gives it a nice finished look. A little bit of lace at the top and at the bottom. And then, of course, there's a lot of lace along the page edges. I used flat lace this time to make it not so bulky, and that meant that I could add more pages to it. So, like I said, 216 pages in this book. It's a good size book. This is vintage glassine paper covering the original front page from the text block. There are many pages throughout the book from the original text block, and the first pages of chapters are blank. I'll show you when we get to them. And the ones that I didn't use in the book to make it, I will be sending with the book when it goes to its new home. So the front page here, I've added some fussy cuts to make it interesting. I thought this illustration sort of depicted innocence and experience. A child and the woman walking through a garden. You'll see here that I left visible 1934, the year it was published. I really like how that turned out. Here's a luggage tag I created from a file folder. You're going to see this file folder in varying shapes and sizes throughout this book. So I'll point that out to you when we come along to it. Again, the laces have all been sewn in. I've left the threads long. You can trim them if you like. Here's our first encounter with part of that file folder. It's a vintage file folder. And I've tucked in some pieces of tea-dyed paper and such for journaling on. And then this was a little offcut left over from the woman and child picture that was from a book from the 1930s. Here you're going to see I had a little bit of fun with some fussy cutting. There's a fountain pen here and a thumb and finger holding a nib to put it in. This was from a 1948 National Geographic book advertisement. And you're going to see these nibs here and there throughout the book. I made them into tabs. So there's 5 times you're going to see them as tabs in the book. I like how that turned out. Wherever possible in this book, if I know the age of the book that I pulled the paper from, I've written it down in very faint pencil. You can erase that if you don't want that there, but I thought you might find it interesting to know how old the pages are whenever I know. So this page is from 1906, a book on correspondence, and I've added some faux cellophane tape that I created myself using shiny Scotch tape and alcohol ink. This is children's composition paper, tea-dyed paper. I didn't do this tea-dyed paper, but all the rest of the tea-dyed paper in this book I did. This was from Happy Mail. Here's a flashcard made into a little flip out with space for journaling. The other side of this page, I purposefully put it askew just for some variety and interest for your eye to look at. Little tab up here made with fabric and sewn on. The other side of that luggage tag. Here and there you're going to see some faint stenciling of a harlequin pattern. This is where I was telling you that the front pages of the chapters in this book were blank. So I chose to begin each signature with one, and I'll be sending the rest along with the book. So the new owner can have fun maybe making tags or whatever they wish with these pages. This page is from a book on the life of St. Anne, and it was published in 1886. Here's a book from a gardening manual. It was published in 1911. Here again is part of that file folder that I used. I did a little stamping with a vintage stamp that I found thrifting one day, and washi tape in behind, a little tear along the edge, and then I tea-dyed some paper and put a little stamp on it. Just tuck it in there so that you know that that's a spot that you could hold papers in. I don't know the age of this page. It was from a book that I suspect was from the early 1900s, given what I recognize now about general ages of books, but there was no publication date in it to be certain. This is from a vintage photo album, this spread, which is why I left these ends the way they are. I purposefully sewed this one signature in with black thread so that this spread will look really nice. And what I've included here is, first of all, this bulldog clip. It's one of the few brand new things in this book. These are very hard to find from repurposed sources, and I just love using them in journals. So it's one of the few things I will treat myself to and purchase new. But the laces and everything on it, they're all repurposed. Glassine envelope here actually has some vintage photo corners in it for you. So if you want to, you can make a photo spread on these pages here that were from the photo album. And I've just clipped that there with the bulldog clip. This is a book of Scottish music, and it was from 1934. Another tab that I created from that National Geographic ad with the fountain pen nibs. This is tea-dyed paper from a book that I have. It's a 10-year blank gardening diary. I added a little ruffle at the bottom and sewed it in. I love when pages are all different shapes and sizes. Again, the harlequin stenciling, and again, a blank beginning of a chapter from the original text block. This is from a day book that was from 1985. This is from a children's arithmetic book that was from 1954. On this side of it, I created a little peekaboo pocket from pattern paper that I made into sort of like glassine paper using Mod Podge. And then I tucked in a little journaling card, and it says, "Discover the secret." And you can write inside there and keep it secret and put it into your little peekaboo pocket there. And I love that you can still see Discover the Secret and read it right through the pattern paper. This is a spread from a small Butterfly Watchers book, a pocket book, and it was from 1929. And it has pictures of butterflies in it. So I've used a paper clip that's in the shape of a butterfly that I got in some Happy Meal. This envelope has been sewn into the signature, and I've tucked into it a postcard that I made into a journaling text. Actually, it's an illustration that I made into a postcard. That's better. I found a book once in my thrifting from, it's reproductions of artwork. An artist was commissioned in the 1800s to draw what he thought life in the year 2000 would look like. And I love this one, Madame at her toilette. So I created that into a journaling card, and I tucked it in here. And again, the stenciling of the Harlequin pattern. This book, The Book of Words, is from 1924. Again, if I haven't already mentioned it, that can be erased if you prefer not to have that in there. Pen nibs. A spread tea-dyed paper from a guest book. These are so much fun to fill in a journal. I'd been saving this photo. It's out of a book, but I've been saving it for a while. I just love it. Stealing a kiss at a table at a club. And because this chapter is Angel of Darker Drink, and all those half-drank glasses on the table, and she's even still got one in her hand while they're stealing a kiss. I've liked it for a while and saved it for the right book. And when I make an all sorts book, that means it has all sorts of stuff in it. Here's some tea-dyed ledger paper that I can't leave a pocket empty, so that can be for journaling. Oh, hold on. There we go. Pitman shorthand book. I forget what year it is. Maybe I've written it on the other side. When we get there, we'll see. And if not, I'll find out and I will write it on before it goes off to its new home. This is just some bridge score paper. This is from an old book called The Universal Book of Knowledge. And I chose it because it didn't have Evangeline in it, which is what I've been calling her. But it did have Evangelical Alliance, Evangelist. And I thought, well, that's as close as we're going to get. So I like how that looks. Old vintage paper from the 1900s. This is from a page of hats from the reprint of the 1908 Sears Roebuck catalog. Here's a spread made with legal paper, and I put some tea-dyed blue tags here. Oh, okay, so the Universal Book of Knowledge is 1940. Now let's hope I did this on the Pitman shorthand course. 1937. Very good. A little fabric tab that I sewed on, and it's got a little bit of a ruffle on it. This is a book, the Encyclopedia of Watches, and another tab made from the fountain pen advertisement. Here's a little pocket that I made and was able to sew right into the signature. I put just some fussy cuts from a vintage gardening magazine similar to an Ideals magazine. And then I created a journaling tag from a vintage index card, which is naturally yellowed. I love that when they're so old that Mother Nature and Father Time have done the work for me. And then a little tab at the top. This is a spread from a reprint I have of a lady's cookbook from, I believe, the 1800s. But this is a reprint. It's not It's not from the 1800s. Here's the other side of that pocket. And again, with a fussy cut from out of that floral arranging book, and another tuck spot there with some sewing on it. A little fun collaging for me before I send it on its way. Again, I loved this. It reminded me of the chapter Angel of the Dark Drink, and those two look like they're having a lovely time at a cocktail party. Now, where you see yellowed cellophane tape in the book, mostly those I have created myself. They're faux cellophane tape, but these two pieces are actual aged cellophane tape that I will peel off from various sources of things that I purchase at thrift stores and reuse it because it's just so beautiful. So those two pieces are real. I'm not sure. I know the year of this book and I didn't write it in, so I will find out and write it in. Let's see, I'm looking at my list here and I don't see it. I'm going to watch and close. Oh, 1959. Let me write it in right now. 1959. There we go. Here's a tuck spot that I made from a tag and sewed it on. And I've included a vintage flashcard, mathematics, and I've included a recipe for meatloaf from Lois Johnstone. I don't know who she is. I even find old full recipe tins when I go thrifting. So I thought that could be journaled on the back, and maybe some fun collaging on here with Lois's typing on the front. Another little tuck spot with a vintage playing card that I've sewn on, and just some tea-dyed paper for journaling. A page out of a birdwatcher's book. More ledger paper. I love when there's a number on the page. Here's another peekaboo pocket that I created with the pattern paper and the Mod Podge. And then there's a little tag inside. I love that. Fussy cut from a book. And space to journal on the back. I like how they're peering out at you through the pattern tissue. Paper ruffle and just a little fussy cut. This is bullet journal paper from the back of one of my bullet journals that I didn't fill up. I always like to start a new one in January, so if I haven't filled the old one, I pull the pages out and tea dye them and put them into journals. Another fountain pen nib. This is wallpaper from Dave's kitchen over in England. He was redoing his kitchen and discovered all kinds of vintage wallpaper underneath some of the other wallpapers on his wall. So he sent me some because he knew that's the kind of stuff I like. Again, this is from a book, Roget's Thesaurus, however you prefer to pronounce it. I know the year for this too. I guess I should find out. Nope. Oh, there it is, 1923. I guess I better write it down. I thought I went through the whole book ahead of time. Obviously, I didn't. Well, this is a good chance. The other side of the bullet paper, this is from a 1950s edition of the Monopoly game, and it's the real deal. I made this pocket out of a book of postcards that I found thrifting, and I tucked in some tea-dyed journaling paper. This is from a booklet of recipes and interesting anecdotes, and also Dr. Miles' various medicines. And he used to print these. From what I can see, it was monthly or semi-monthly. This came in some Happy Mail to me. And these were published in the 1930s. And when I went to look up and find out more about it, as I love to do with things I find or gain, Dr. Miles, his claim to fame was Alka-Seltzer. So there you go. Here's a tip out here, nice big tip out with a bit of sewing on it, holding the lace in place. The last page, I've put a genuine library pocket on the back. This is actually from a book of artwork I have from Toulouse-Lautrec. Let me lift it up so that you can see it. And then I fussy cut some flowers off of the rest of the offcuts from the wrapping paper because I felt like I had covered up so much of it and it's so pretty. So I fussy cut some flowers and glued them on there. And that way, when you pull out the library card, you'll see that, it's pretty. And then, of course, it's not a Sunnyside journal if it doesn't have a Two Nanas bookmark in it. So there you go. This is Evangeline, also known as Innocence and Experience. So she's going to be listed in my Etsy shop probably in about an hour. So if you're interested in maybe seeing if this is the journal for you, the link will be below for my Etsy shop and you can go over and take a look. Thanks for watching with me. I hope you enjoyed this flip through. I sure enjoyed making this journal. It was a real pleasure. As I said, an all sorts journal is my favorite kind to make. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Bye.